Friends, today we're going to be talking about a very big topic in New World, and that is the removal of Ward and Bane. Perks like this on your armor that give you damage absorption against a particular enemy type, and also perks that you can get on your weapon that give you bonus damage against a particular enemy type. Those are being taken out from the game with the intention to allow new and returning players to get back in and get into dungeons easier, as right now it has almost like become gatekeepery, where if you don't have these perks on your weapons and armor, you don't get invited to dungeons, specifically mutated dungeons. So today we're going to be taking a look at some information from the devs and going over it together here in this video. But first, before we do that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by AMD. And those of you who are fellow lovers of open world and all those huge, expansive, visually compelling games are going to want to buckle up for this one, as AMD are partnering with Bethesda to bring the long-awaited Starfield in all its top-end graphical glory to every PC gamer. Their 6,000 and 7,000 GPUs are built exactly with these kind of massive gaming titles at the core of their design. So click my link in the description down below, or check out the comments to go straight to the AMD site, where select Radeon GPUs and pre-built PC purchases will come complete with a free digital copy of Starfield, and depending on the components purchased, you can even get the premium edition. That said, AMD know not everybody is able to get their hands on the latest and greatest components, so they're offering options for all budgets and are working directly with Bethesda as their exclusive PC partner for Starfield to make sure everybody can upgrade their PC to play Starfield as it's meant to be played. The main way they're focused on doing this isn't just through their unrivaled prices for top quality hardware, they're also working to make games run at the top settings across their entire fleet of GPUs by integrating AMD's own software, FSR2, which can boost your frame rate by up to 2.5 times when activated. Now, this is huge news for Starfield enjoyers, but don't think that AMD are putting all of their efforts into perfecting performance for just one game, as it doesn't stop there. AMD's FSR2 now integrates with over 150 AAA games, and that list just keeps growing, so you can experience the biggest titles as they were meant to be played, no matter your series of AMD hardware. Make sure to check out my links in the description down below to take your PC to the next level in preparation for Starfield. So this is another one of the Forged in Eternum series, where we get New World developers sit down in front of the camera and tell us about upcoming changes to the game. And I believe in this video they're going to be talking about the removal of Ward and Bane. This obviously raises a lot of questions as what is going to happen with items that already have the perk on them. Is there going to be a replacement? When is it dropping into the game? Hopefully all of these questions are going to get answered in today's video. Let's take a look, shall we?
So Indestructible is unfortunately gone. I know that was the community's favorite perk, so very sad.
Yeah, I don't know
that
if
one.
unfortunately was the right word there.
All right, off to a good start. Indestructible. Not a great perk. There's a perk you can get on your armor and your weapons and your jewelry and like everything, and it just means that the item doesn't take damage, which is just, it's such a bad perk because you don't really care about, you know, it makes your repair bills cheaper, but nobody's really worrying about their repair bills past like the first 20 levels in New World. So good to hear that's going. You're a great start to the video.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forged in Eternum, where we talk about all things New World. I'm here with Patrick and Dave today, and we're going to talk about Wards and Banes. We're getting rid of them. Show over. See you next time. Just kidding. But we are removing Wards and Banes. You want to talk about that a little, Dave?
Yeah, I think, you know, high level, we want people to be able to enjoy our gear system and really go for aspirational perks and perks that change their build. Whereas this felt a little bit too much like a chore, right? Like I had to get these to be competitive in certain modes like mutations, or I had to get resilient to be competitive in PvP. And I think we want...
Interesting. He's also mentioning resilient there as well. I don't know if that's a confirmation. It sounds like it would be. Resilient obviously being the PvP equivalent, where you effectively just take less damage from other players. It's true what they're saying. There are certain, like you basically think that one perk slot is always dedicated to either resilient or ward. In the same way the life staff right now feels like you always have to have blessed on the life staff. I wonder if they're going to raise that. They did talk about indestructible. I wonder if they're going to be moving around other perks as well that almost have become mandatory.
To sort of like reduce the amount of required perks and instead let people sort of experiment and try it out.
Sounds like it.
But what stinks is I worked really hard to get all these corrupted wards. You just going to take them away from me?
Oh, wait, what is this? Since filming this, information has changed due to playtesting. Updated information. Hold on, move my camera. Ward perks will not remain in the game. Instead, they will be replaced by new perks that provide different utility, including health, a new perk that increases the player's maximum health. Wait, ward perks will not remain in the game. Instead, they will be replaced by new perks that provide different utility, including health. Interesting. So the perk is being replaced. One of the perks just gives you like more health. All right, that sounds like a fairly good replacement. I mean, amulet on the amulet, having the there's a perk you can get on the amulet that just increases the amount of health you have, and that's like almost mandatory as well. Since filming, information has changed due to playtesting. I wonder when they film this then. Let's see. All right, that's good to know. So they are replacing the perks rather than just trashing the gear. Maybe it looks like we have plenty of time to read this without
Any
pausing.
gear you acquire in the future above gear score 625 will not have ward dropping, will not have resistance dropping, will not have resilient dropping.
Okay.
So the new gear you're going to get is going to be a lot more exciting because there's going to be more viable perks on it. And less perks that you don't really want to see on your gear. So Indestructible is unfortunately gone. I know that was the community's favorite perk, so very sad
Yeah, I
to lose
don't know
that one.
if unfortunately was the right word.
I noticed though, so he said when gear drops above 625. Right now, obviously weapons and armor don't drop above 625. In fact, they don't even drop above 600 apart from in very rare instances. So, I mean, we kind of knew this was coming because there's a gear score increase. But yeah, items are going to drop at 625 or higher. So that's almost like a confirmation that Umbral Shard's not really needed. You know, if you want to bring a piece of gear to 625 right now, you only do it with Umbral Shards. In the future, they're just going to drop at that gear score level. So yeah, more confirmation. I feel like that Umbral Shards... I mean, maybe you'll use Umbral Shards after 65. That seems strange, though. Anyway.
Word there, Patrick.
We're playing a sarcastic game right now for those not following along, but yes.
But I think that's an important thing, right? Like, there's a couple of perks we just thought, hey, these are never going to be viable.
Yeah.
Like, people will never want this in gear, and I think those are now disappearing. So
really good
you
to
don't
hear.
get that disappointment of getting a cool piece of gear with it.
You know, and it's worth mentioning, at one point they made sense when we were thinking about gear differently, you know, a couple years ago, but the game's evolved. We listen to the players, we're pushing in different directions, and it becomes less a thing. So what else you want to talk about, Patrick?
So along with removing ward, resilient, and other perks, we're doing a broad perk rebalance. So there's a number of perks you're not going to see on that gear that is below gear score or above gear score 625 in the future.
Interesting.
So we already talked about the wards and the resilience. Other perks will be going away.
What
Some of
else?
the underperforming perks that we like but aren't really often selected by the community are going to be rebalanced to be more attractive choices. So I'm very excited about that. Then we're also going to be adjusting some of the currently overperforming perks. So things like attunement might see their cooldown increase slightly. So across the board, though, we're trying to make sure that the perks are finding that nice equilibrium where any perk is valuable in the game.
I wonder if that does it. You know, we just talked about it, but I wonder if that does include like blast on the life staff, for example, because again, it just like it increases your healing, and life staff's a healing weapon, so it's like you have to have it. So I wonder how they're gonna tackle that one. Be nice to give some more examples, but I guess we probably gotta wait until this update drops on the test server, which should be soon, by the way. You know, this update that I believe it's gonna happen in is the Season 3 expansion, which is at time of recording probably only about 5 weeks away. So 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. So I've got to imagine the test server, what we get to see this update is going to be soon. But maybe they mentioned that in the video.
Another thing that I think is worth mentioning, as we remove certain perks from the game, we're also going to be adding some new perks to make more room, especially on armor, right? Where we remove all the wards. Patrick?
Nice.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're adding a few new perks with this perk rebalance. So for example, touching on weapons specifically, there's only really been one good healing perk, and that's Blessed. We're adding a lot more healing perks that are conditional.
Oh.
So they add bonus healing, but based on certain conditions. So you might want to run a certain staff for a boss that might be very damage over time heavy, things like that. So
Cool.
we're trying to make sure that there's different gear for different situations, and it's all exciting and valuable to players.
Nice. Okay.
And, you know, as
think
part
I
of
like
the
that.
compensation for this, we're talking about modifying how ward potions work, right?
Yeah. So one of the things, we do like this idea of a little bit of a prep loop, for expeditions or various, you know, sort of higher level content. So making the ward potions, which are currently sort of like, you know, used for specific battles, making them last the whole expedition, right? So like you go in, prep with a potion, so it's much lighter weight, but it still gives you a little bit of that prep and bolsters the economy.
In case anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, by the way, you have these, maybe if you don't play New World too much or you're not like doing the mutated dungeons or whatever, you won't really see them too often. But you can get these potions here. They're called Infused Corrupted Ward or Infused Ancient Ward, Angry Earth Ward. This is like the highest tier version of it. It gives you a damage absorption against a particular enemy type for a brief amount of time. So you can really bump up your damage absorption. You know, it's like wearing another... 3 pieces of ward gear, but only for 30 seconds or after you receive damage. So This is what I believe they were going to do for a while, because they hinted at it. They're most likely just going to take the strength of the ward gear and put it into the potion instead, and probably bump this up from 30 seconds to 30 minutes or something. But yeah, just in case anyone wasn't sure like what he means by ward potion, because you don't see them that much unless you're doing mutated dungeons typically.
Which I kind of like that, because it makes it, it gives us the ability to put more enemy types in an expedition, and it not feeling like, oh my god, I have to change my gear, as opposed to just taking a new potion. It's a little easier, you know, to get through that.
A couple things more on maybe the nerdy side, or people that are really into
Some
this stuff. Yeah, I think on the attribute stuff, one of the things we do right now is that the attributes are asymmetric, right? So, you know, there's ones where strength is more than dex, and then dex is more than strength. We're going to change that so that they're now equal, right? So that it's an equal split, and I think that will, be easier for players to understand, reduce some of the drop types and things like that. So I think that'll be pretty interesting.
Patrick, is any of this going to have an effect?
Yeah, so you can get like a void gauntlet with like focus and then intelligence, and then you can also get the flip side of that, where it has like 15 focus and then 10 intelligence, and then you can get the vice versa, where it's 15 intelligence and then 10 focus. So now it's going to be equal. So there won't be so many different stat types, which sounds pretty good actually. That sounds like I never even considered that being like an important thing. You know, yeah, I've got an example here with this spear. It gives me 21 dex and 10 strength, and then there'll be an opposite version of the spear when it gives me 21 strength and 10 dex. So now I guess it's just 15 on either side or whatever. Yeah, I didn't even think that being important, but that does actually make sense. It's going to reduce like the item bloat and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Effect on your inventory?
It will. So there's a lot of perk mods right now for crafting certain attribute bonuses that will be going away. The aim there is to streamline crafting and also make you manage far fewer perk mods. If you look in my inventory right now, I've probably got a couple hundred perk mods just sitting there. The goal there is to reduce that number significantly, so you're crafting things that are more meaningful.
Sounds good.
I'm with you on that. There's so many, it's hard to even get through them all when you're looking for some.
Yeah.
This is going to be a pretty massive change to the game and have a big impact. I'm pretty excited about it, but is there anything else either of you want to add?
PTR.
No, I think this is going to be a really nice change, and I think, you know, Katie mentioned in our Q&A, like what's nice about this is it was really spurred by a lot of customer sentiment, right? Like I think players have been talking about how annoying Banes can be, especially when we had a couple expeditions that had multiple family types. That's what really brought it to the forefront. And I think, you know, while we were looking at that, we made some changes in Imperium Forge to require only one set, but at the same time, while we were doing that, we're like, what is really the value of this? And like, are players enjoying it? And it made us take a hard look at it.
You know, there is just one more thing I thought of in the middle of this conversation that we can mention is it's also going to allow us to balance the expeditions and the mutations more toward a common thing and not assume people have these wards or don't have them. So I think that's going to create different builds coming in that are going to make the gameplay more interesting and more varied.
And hopefully a little less of, hey, link gear before I let you in my group.
Yeah.
That's another big goal here.
Yeah, I think if you're, you know, if the perks are much more strong for expeditions, then it's going to be your gear score speaks volumes, and then it's your play style is going to be the differentiator.
That's exactly right? Like in a theoretical world, like we're never going to hit this perfect the first time, but where every perk is just as viable as every other, it doesn't matter exactly which perks you have, just that you have, you know, the gear score.
Yeah, and if you like to play a certain way, you're going to have perks that support that versus someone else. I think that'll be that's the dream space. We'll see, like, and we're going to need everyone who's watching, we're going to need their help getting there.
So there's going to be a PTR soon.
All right, well, I think that's all we got for today. Thanks, Patrick and Dave, and thanks everyone for watching. But before we go, we do have a question for the community. Actually, I'm going to ask two questions.
Here we go.
If you could buff any perk, what would you buff? And if you could cut any perk, what would you cut? And with that, if you like what you saw, let us know, like and subscribe. Otherwise, see you in Eternum.
If I could cut any perk, oh, what's in the next video? Hold on. Community Q&A, okay. This is also going to be a pretty juicy video as well. So they're taking questions from the players. You can submit them on Discord, maybe on Reddit. I don't know if there's a few other places. And then they're going to be answering them. So even more questions about Season 3. How a mount's going to work? What's the new weapon? How's the new zone? What is the gear score increase going to? Hopefully we can get some juicy answers to that question. That was a great video though. That was pretty awesome to see. I was hoping that we might get a little bit more information on, you know, the replacement of Ward and Bane, like whether we were going to get a box of loot. So yeah, interesting that the perks just straight up going to be replaced with something else. Hopefully they're not going to do that in like an RNG fashion where like, you know, ward might be replaced with health, or it might be replaced with refreshing, or it might be replaced with shirking fortification, because, you know, some inevitably some perks are going to be better than others. What Dave was talking about, where they get it right first time, that would be great, and you know that every perk is just as good as the other one, but there is almost certainly going to be a tier list where some perks are better than others. It's probably just going to go down that way. Hopefully what we see with the changing of this gear is not just like, you know, a new system replacing the old one, where people are like, you don't link your ward and Bane gear anymore, but instead you link, you know, elemental aversion and health gear or something. Hopefully we're not going to see people just wanting you to link a full set of health armor. You know, sadly I could see that happening, but I guess at the end of the day, there's only so much they can do to stop the player mentality from stuff like that. But yeah, that was a great video. Excited to get to play this on the test server. It's still, you know, we have only 42 days to go at time of recording. It'll probably be obviously less when you guys watch this video. 42 days to go until this update. I believe that's when it's going to drop into the game. So let me know what you guys are thinking about the removal of ward and Bane gear in the comments down below. I believe the general idea is it's going to allow for more combinations of armor. You don't just have to have one thing, and it should allow new and returning players, make an easier path to progression for them to get in the game as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. If you want to continue the conversation, I will stream on Twitch most days, playing New World. As always, the old like and subscribe button does help out very much. And I'll see you guys all in the next video.